Now then, bit of a learning curve here for everyone, or maybe not. We have a battery charger. The leads are a bit rough. Looks like there's some connections, twisted the wires together sort of thing in there. This came out of a workshop come shed from a friend of mine who was tidying it out, and anyway, this was on its way to the dump, as it were, and it's a pretty old charger, very simple, fuse and a link to go between 6 and 12 volts, and on the back there's just a big hole in the slot there and there to go on the wall. But before I even try this, the top is held on with pop rivets, so I'm going to drill those out and remove the top just to make sure nothing untoward is inside. And I really think that these wires, which do feel quite stiff, and the insulation I think is breaking up, so I'll just drill those out and then we'll zoom in and let's have a look. Right, I've got those pop rivets undone, but let's just have a look at this first. Just there we've got the 6 and 12 volt, so you just pull that out and stick that between there, the centre, and there. That's 6 volt. From centre to there is 12 volt, and that's a fuse. I'm not going to mess with it, because you know what happens when you start messing with that sort of stuff. But let's have a look at this. Just by the way, James Gross, or Gross, yeah, the Mark III battery charger. Let's zoom down a bit more on that. Sorry about that. 200 to 240 volts AC, 50 cycles, 6 to 12 volt, 3 to 4 amps. Right. Let's have this apart. As I say, the pop rivets have been removed. So now I need to try and keep in shot at all times. So the back comes off. And let's have a look. Right. Well, that's all mighty loose. And these wires here look like they could have been shorting out. So let's just have a brief look. We've got the mains in there. See if I can zoom down a bit. And remember, I've zoomed in. There's a knot in the cable there, so somebody's been in this before. And we've got the mains into the transformer. Then we've got, that will be the 12 volt output, and that will be the 6 volt output of the transformer. And then the common comes across to the rectifier. And then we have a common from the transformer that comes from the rectifier also. So there's your two inputs, that one there and that one there. That's the variable one, that's the neutral, as it were, but the other side of the transformed and isolated AC. Then this middle here, can we see all right? We can. That goes off to, now, oh yes, that goes off, that will be the positive, goes to the ammeter, which then goes across here to the fuse, which then comes down and is the positive output here. So it comes down there. and then the negative from the rectifier goes straight out. Okay, that's not too bad. We've lost the rubber grommet on the output cables, so we need to do something about that. But the main thing is this is all really loose. So I've got a socket here, and we just need to I think this is probably some weird imperial bolt, because this socket doesn't fit that well. Oh, that's not so bad now. Right, we want these really nice and tight. Doesn't want to fit that one, but that's nice and tight, so nothing's wobbling about. Okay, so all that makes sense. So you've got two outputs from the transformer, a 12 volt and a 6 volt, and then we just through the rectifier and through a ammeter and through a fuse and to the output. Now then, I suppose the only thing to do really, I've removed those extensions of these output cables, but one of the things is I just want to see what's underneath this mess here. That's a fatter wire than that, and that is a fatter wire than that, so let's see if it's soldered or whether it's just twisted together, just because they were just twisted wires. So there we go. So, and you would get you could possibly get, you know, a resistance there or a bad contact, so it's bad enough with these low voltage DCs anyway. So what we need to do now is check the plug, the fuse, but we can do that without taking it apart, but it's a good idea to have it apart. Let me just zoom out a bit, or else I'll be forgetting. First of all, we need to just check, and check that this doesn't have an earth. Interesting. So they've replaced the cable with a cable without an earth, but we've actually got an earth on here. I'm just going to zoom in there. See, we've got two lives of an earth. So that cable wants replacing, but only, it's a bit short as well, but only when we make sure that this works properly. There's no point doing all that lot and then it doesn't work. So just bear in mind that it doesn't have an earth. Interesting. Right, where are we? The meter. Yeah. Put it on continuity. Does it work? Does. Is that fuse any good? Yeah, it is. Good. So bottom line is we need to change the mains cable on this. So we could do with changing the mains cable and changing the DC output cables, because they're a bit short. Okay. So we've got some mains here. Make sure they're not touching each other. Okay. Oh, we got a hom. Good. We have a battery. Yeah. And this is an analog 0 to 2 amps. Could do with a here we go. I'm not going to put clips on these cables because obviously they need changing. Now then, I think that is the right way round. Yeah, that goes 1.7 amps. So that amp meter is Duff. The one in the machine is Duff. That's 1.5 amps. Yeah, it doesn't want to work. Hopefully you can see that on that meter there. 1.5. But let's check it with the multimeter. So put that on DC. Well, we can put it on the 2, but I'm not quite sure whether the fuse in this is intact or not. Come here, you. Obviously it's not. So put it on the 10, which doesn't have a fuse. .6, 1.5 and slowly going down. Right. So this amp meter is fairly accurate. The amp meter in the machine is no, doesn't want to work. Whether or not we could have that apart and make it work, I don't know. Goes up, doesn't want to go down. And now it's showing 2.5, so it's inaccurate as well. Okay. Interesting. Whether or not I want to fix this or not, I don't know. I've got half a dozen other battery chargers, but just the investigation was quite interesting. Yeah, and of course the last thing to do is take that out of there, yeah, and put it back in there. Because if you leave that in there and then go round to volts and try and do some DC volts or anything like that, then it's a dead short and you'll let the blue smoke dragon out. Yeah. Okay. Hopefully you've found this a bit interesting. Yeah, very simple, easy battery charger. There's nothing to be frightened of in there. Let me just unplug it. Found 1 or 2 faults. The connections on these, the extensions on these cables was just twisted wires. We don't have an earth, yeah, and the amp meter doesn't work. Fair enough. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed it and learnt a bit, and I will catch up with you very soon. Cheers for now.